Hi guys, it's Baldrick here, and in today's episode I'll be going over a PC build for a target price of about $1,800 that hits 4K resolution in terms of gaming. So it's going to be primarily AMD based, which is good because AMD is as good as Intel, and it really is a big debate which one's better, and you can't really say which one's better because they've both got really good benefits to each platform. So let's get started. Obviously we've got Windows 8 as the operating system. That costs 115 Australian dollars. It is a bit of a rip-off, but if you really want, you don't have to get your OS. You can use other ways of getting it, which I won't explain how to do because I'm pretty sure you know what I mean by that. And yeah, that's it with the OS, because the OS is boring and it doesn't really truly make up your gaming PC. So now let's get on to some of the core components of the PC, which is the first one, the CPU. The CPU I've picked is the AMD FX 8350 8-core processor. So this is perfect for gaming because a lot of games these days are taking up more cores, and especially with new consoles that have 8 cores as well. Obviously games are going to be a bit more optimized for multiple cores, which is great. Single core performance isn't the best on this beast, but when you are using all 8 cores simultaneously in a multi-threaded application, it is a beast and competes with the i5 and some of the i7 processors out there, so it's pretty good, and it's also really cheap. It's only $209. There's some newer processors out, but I don't think they'd outperform this by much, and I think this is perfect because it comes with a decent cooler. The overclocking capability of this isn't the greatest because I found that AMD sort of pushes their products sort of almost as high as they can go before you can overclock them a bit more, but that's really up to how well binned your chip was. So hopefully you get lucky and get a really good overclocker. Now we've got the graphics cards. So I've picked two MSI Radeon R9 290 gaming 4GB edition. So that's going to be running in Crossfire. So it's definitely going to be enough for 4K because you can get away with two 280Xs, but I thought you may as well step it up a notch, get the extra gig of VRAM and you're set for 4K, because this has more RAM than the 780 Ti, and that's obviously more powerful, but when it comes to high resolutions like 4K, the extra gig of VRAM is gonna help you out. So that's why I picked it, and it looks pretty good with the MSI cooler on it, and obviously the cooler allows for some pretty good overclocking, so you can obviously overclock some of these cards pretty well if you're into that. So now that the graphics cards have been covered, I'll just give you the price. Both of them together is $798, so that's pretty, I guess it's a pretty decent amount of money to spend on graphics cards, but if you're going to hit 4K, you definitely want to have the graphics horsepower to do so. Now let's go on to the RAM. The RAM I've picked is the Kingston HyperX Fury 8GB edition, so it's 2x4 RAM slots. Or it's 2x4GB RAM slots, so you're going to have two of them. And they're going to be running at 1600 MHz, and obviously the heatsink color is red to match AMD, so I thought that's why I'd pick red. And that retails for 99 Australian dollars, which is perfect because you don't want to spend more than $100 on your RAM when you can spend it on your graphics cards. And 16GB isn't going to give you any performance gain in gaming unless you've got like a million tabs open in Google Chrome of who knows what. Anyway, now the motherboard. The motherboard I've picked, it's a pretty good motherboard. It's the ASRock 970 Extreme 4. It's got enough expansion slots to do Crossfire, which is great. It's not the most feature-packed motherboard. Obviously, if you've got a bigger budget, you'd just get the top-of-line motherboard. But for this sort of budget build, it's not a budget if it's $1,800. But if it's a budget 4K build, you don't want to be spending all your money on the motherboard. It does what you want. It's got enough hard drive SATA ports in it, so I may as well pick it, and it's black, so it looks pretty nice. That's really all I can say about it. It's got a built-in Ethernet port if you've got Ethernet, and that's why I'll include the Wi-Fi card later if you don't have Ethernet. So now it's a power supply. This is going to be powering this beast of a system. The 290s are pretty power hungry, so I thought you only need 850 watts, but since the Antec high current gamer 900 watt power supply is about the same price as the 850 watt, and it's got a bronze rating. I thought you may as well chuck that in. It's got a red design to it, which is great for AMD because AMD users would want red in their PC, and it looks great, so that's why I picked it. It's obviously modular if you're getting it for it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than some other power supplies. It retails for 169 Australian dollars, so about 170 if you think about it. So it's definitely a beast of a power supply, and you'll never be going above 900 watts with a Crossfire system in 2 ways, so that's fine. So now we've got the case. The case, it's not the most expensive case, but I've used it myself personally for a PC build and it looks great, I can tell you that. It's got a nice side panel if you choose to, and it's obviously red like AMD. So that's why I've picked the Corsair Carbide Spec 03 mid-tower red gaming case. So this obviously will come with a side panel if you choose one, and it looks great. I've used one myself personally. So what else I can say about the case? It's got enough room for an ATX build, I reckon, and it will be able to house the dual graphics cards for sure, which is great. And it's made by Corsair, so they're known for their case making. I really respect them for that. They're great with making their cases. It receives excellent reviews, so that's why I've picked it. And for the hard drive, it's nothing too great, but I've picked a Western Digital Green 1TB for 65 Australian dollars. It's what you need to do the job, but that's not what we'll be focusing on for this build. What I've picked for the boot drive is the Samsung 840 EVO series 250GB SSD. So what you're going to be doing, you're going to be using this as your boot drive, and you're also going to be using it to store your favorite few games. You're not going to have every single game on this drive, but say you're really into Battlefield, you definitely have that on this drive, because you can have about 2-3 games that are about 50 gigs, because you need to keep in mind you also need your operating system on it. So that's why you're going to have this hard drive, because it's going to make, not hard drive, solid state drive, because it's going to make those loading times that much quicker. It's going to make your boot so much quicker, and for a high-end gaming system like this, you definitely want to be using a solid state drive. And since I thought 4K is a pretty big resolution, it would be great to load all those textures fast off your solid state drive. So that's why I picked the Samsung 840 EVO, because it's also reliable and it gets great reviews. Alright, so now onto the, I guess it's a bit more boring, but I've decided to chuck in a cheap DVD drive just to help install the OS, and maybe you've got games that have a disc, so it's always good to have a disc drive in your PC. I always recommend having one. They're pretty cheap. It's only $19 and it's a Samsung one. And then we've got the Wi-Fi card. Obviously the DVD drive was optional, and so is this Wi-Fi card. I've picked the ASUS PCIe N15 wireless NPCle adapter. So it's pretty good speeds. It's average Wi-Fi adapter. It's going to do the job. It fits perfectly in the motherboard. It goes in the PCI Express lane 1 slot, or you can put it in a 16 slot if you want. And it, yeah, doesn't look best because it's green, but it does the job, and that's all you want it to do. But if you've got an Ethernet port, I wouldn't really worry about this, and I'd just worry about getting your high speeds with the Ethernet, and maybe upgrading another component in your system, or maybe just saving the money for yourself. So that's really about it for this build, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed doing these builds, so leave a like if you want to see more in the future, because I've definitely got more PC builds I can do, and I can maybe have a look in the comments if you've got any recommendations. I can try and hit a target price and get target performance for that price. So that's what I really like doing with these PC builds. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later. Have a nice day.